Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Our largest single-theme land expansion ever.
Now we want you to share with us our latest and greatest dream.
Matterhorn Matt presents Matterhorn Mondays.
Welcome, everybody. I was not prepared for that to finish as soon as it did. To episode 153 of Matterhorn Mondays. As you all know, my name just happens to be Matterhorn Matt.
My name is, I guess, it's been mandated. I don't like this title. For today, I suppose it's Jingle Cruise Jeremy. I don't mind it because it's kind of the secular, one of the more secular holiday images, if you will. I don't think there's any J things that are for any Jewish thing. You could call me Jew, Jeremy, but I just don't think I would want to hear anybody say that to me.
Someone said Jungle Juice, Jeremy, which was another good one too.
That's probably a little more accurate.
What is Jungle Juice, you guys? Define Jungle Juice in the chat. But yeah, I want to right off the bat, you guys, I'll admit, I made a mistake. Last week was not episode 153. Today is episode 153. So I might have made that mistake when I read it out loud to you all. But it's fixed, at least in the titles. I can't go back and redo the audio. If I could, I would. But yeah, we got lots of great topics that we are excited to get into today. And of course, links to all of our socials will be down in the description as always. And if you'd like to be wished a happy birthday live on the show, you can do so by clicking the link down below, submitting your name, and we'll add it to our Google Calendar here. And yeah, we missed last week. But our first birthday, actually, this past Monday the 9th, was Mr. Jingle Cruise Jeremy himself, you guys. So let's go ahead
and
yeah. Forgot. Yeah, let's get a happy birthday in the chat for Jeremy, as well as Tuesday the 10th of November was Matthew's birthday, not me. There must be another Matthew whose birthday was that day. But, yeah, we have more this week. Today, Monday the 16th, is David. That's a very tough last name. Mancini. David. Happy birthday, David. I'm sorry if I butchered your last name. You guys know how it goes here. Thursday, this upcoming Thursday, the 19th, Vetter's birthday. Happy birthday to Vetter. He's a prominent member of our Discord server, I believe. And let's see. This is a kind of long username here. Carousels and their Wurlitzer's birthday. Thursday the 19th. Yeah, I guess happy birthday to that person. Yeah, that does it for this week's birthdays, and I forgot to mention it last week, but if you'd like to call in, leave a voicemail, 575-386-5814. We are doing a Q&A here at the end of the episode, so if you'd like to have your Disney questions answered, you can go ahead and call in. 575-386-5814. We're excited to get into that. We have some from Twitter, but yeah, you guys can
obviously this doesn't apply if you're watching this after the fact.
Yes.
But we're kind of testing the waters. This was kind of last minute. I wanted to do something fun-ish. And yeah, we'll see next time. If there is a next time, we'll give people more notice. Not that anybody wants to ask us any questions, but if you do, you can leave it on a voicemail, and we'll hopefully get to it. You can put it in the chat. We'll try to track questions that are asked in the chat.
Yes,
and you can also respond to Matt's tweet on Twitter.
Yes.
But please ask us questions about the channel, about hot takes,
hot cakes,
anything you want.
Cold cakes, all kinds of cakes. you guys. That was kind of funny, I think. But we do have I'd like to make a special announcement for next week's episode. Of course, we do have a lot of news to cover this week, but next week, if you guys would love to tune in, we will be joined by special guest and friend of the show, Freddie, from the Imagine Tomorrow podcast to do a rundown of the, I believe it's the D23 Destination D, I think, announcements that are going to be happening.
That's right. Yeah,
throughout this week.
Oh, yeah. There's the special these panel discussions that are going on that are some of them
today.
Seem really exciting. I think. I'm not sure. I think it was the Fantasia one to start it all off. I think. So I hope that gets released later because that's really the one that I'm the most interested in. Yeah. Fantasia actually just celebrated its 80th anniversary.
Catching up.
Thank God they're not working on a live action remake.
Oh. Yeah.
So
hopefully not.
It makes me sad because I wonder if they were planning on some sort of theatrical re-release for this period of time. But cool. That doesn't mean they can't do that in the future. I'd love to have them do a theatrical re-release of Fantasia with
Dolby Atmos
on film with Fantasound.
Oh yeah,
that would be great. Yeah. They would never do that though. So I just, anyway.
Well, Bob happens to be listening, both of the Bobs. I'll make sure that they get that announcement, but
I doubt it.
We love the Bobs here, you guys. Watch the show. But yeah, next week we're excited to have Freddie on the show to join us. It should be a hoot, and should be the
Freddie's been killing it with his podcast. Mm-hmm. The past few episodes, he's interviewed Eddie Sato, former Imagineer Eddie Sato, and also one of the greatest of the second generation Imagineers. He has 3 hours worth of content that'll be spread out, I think, with none other than Tim Delaney, one of the greatest of all time. So, yeah.
Shout out to Freddie. Yeah, it'll be a great episode, be a great discussion. We're glad to have him on. But I think that finishes up all the announcements for this week. Jeremy, do you have anything you'd like to say before we get started for News from the Peak?
I just turned 26. I'm facing quarter life crisis right in the eyes, and I'm saying, I don't know.
You're
figuring it out though.
You're saying it's time
I'm saying get out of the way. I'm saying it's time for News from the Peak. That's the first step. That's the first step to healing the traumas from adolescence is moving on to News from the Peak.
Yes.
Before I have a nervous breakdown on air.
Let's go. News from the Peak, everybody. Oh, I don't have any snap. Sorry, I forgot the Snapple this week. It's been kind of a crazy day, so we're bypassing Matt Snaps this week. Jumping right into this week's News from the Peak.
We now present to you News from the Peak.
Now, we have lots of great pieces of news to get to today's show. First bit of news here, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure is opening up next 2021 at Epcot, as announced by Josh Demaro during today's IAAPA keynote, which is the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions. Very excited to have finally have a release date for this attraction. That seems like it's been ready for, at least from what I've been hearing, it's been ready for quite a while. But yeah, what's our second bit of news from the Peak here, Mr. Jeremy?
Our second bit of news from the Peak is really exciting, and it's about time. So at the IAAPA, this today, I think I don't know when this will be happening exactly, but they did announce earlier in the week that at IAAPA, which is happening this week, that our beloved Imagineer, former Imagineer, Tony Baxter will be in their Hall of Fame. So he'll be finally inducted into the Hall of Fame of the theme park industry of all of it. So that is very exciting. Tony Baxter, of course, needs no introduction to this audience. He is possibly one of the most well-known second-generation Imagineer. next to Joe Rohde probably, and there's others that are becoming more and more household names from that generation. But he's probably the philosophical leader of the second generation in the same way that John Hench was the philosophical leader of the first generation. So I don't need to run through his list of credits. Journey into Imagination. Oh, that's interesting.
Look at
Star
that mustache
Tours,
too.
Indiana Jones. Just some of the greatest attractions of all time. There he is. That's a good picture of Mr. Baxter. Congratulations to Tony Baxter.
Mr. Tony Baxter. Round of applause. Yeah. I wish I could meet him eventually one day, hopefully in the future. Love to have him on the show. That'd be pretty cool. But for our final bit of news from the peak today, this is kind of cool. Disney has recently revealed images from inside upcoming attractions, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind and the Space 220 restaurant at Epcot, as well as inside the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser Resort during today's IAAPA, horribly long acronym, keynote. So
Yeah, but you just say it. IAAPA.
IAAPA?
IAAPA.
Yeah, IAAPA.
Yeah, we weren't. Yeah, wasn't messing with you earlier. It's IAAPA. Just say it. Say it right now.
IAAPA.
Good job.
Let's go. All right. Well, yeah, this is the inside of the Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind show building. Looks like a roller coaster, that's for sure. It looks kind of short. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell, I guess, from just this one picture. But then we have another image here from inside the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel. And I must say, there's the comparison image of the concept art. It looks pretty sweet. I mean, I knew that the window looking outside into space would be kind of hard to pull off and make it look good. And I'm sure the picture doesn't do it justice. It'll probably look better in person, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, it looks pretty cool. It looks like a little space bunk that you pay $2,000 a night to sleep in. But yeah, there's the concept art. Here's another image here, and yeah, it looks very shiny, very clean. Comparison image there, and here we have the Space 220 restaurant, which I'm excited for. I'd love to eat at this restaurant. Just the idea of being in space and eating dinner or something. That sounds really, really cool. So, yeah, Jeremy, what are your thoughts here on these pieces of images here?
Yeah, with Cosmic Rewind, that's just a little piece of it. That's not the full showroom, I can imagine. So I don't really know what to make of it. I'm certain they're going to fill in that space there. It's not, but who knows? It's sort of this exciting kind of thing of, it's this interesting hybrid ride system of roller coaster and dark ride. I hope they are able to pull that off. It'll be a lot of fun. The Star Wars Hotel, I guess it depends the type of experience you want when you are staying at a resort. That's not the kind of experience that I personally like. I like to have nice views of the whole resort area, and maybe views of the fireworks and something like that, and be able to be outside and look around. So I would feel pretty claustrophobic. I wouldn't necessarily want that kind of experience.
Sure.
But if you do, I'm sure it's going to be really exciting if you can afford it. Yeah.
And then last but not
least, in Space 2020. Yeah, I think the concept of this is really cool. And we'll see. I'm sure that's not the completed overview of Earth. That kind of looks like... we'll see. I'm sure it's going to look fantastic, and that's promising enough. So I'm excited to eat there one day.
Yes. I'm excited as well. I love space. The idea of being in space and eating food while not actually being in space sounds pretty cool to me. But like I said, we do have some great topics that we're excited to get into today. First topic being Demaro encourages industry be forward thinking. And then our second topic, COVID tides rise while Disney searches for life vest. And then finally we do have our Q&A, which we're going to keep mentioning here because we'd love to answer you guys' questions. Q&A at the end of the episode. Comment down below. Call in 575-386-5814 if you'd like to leave a question for us to answer at the end of the episode. Disney related, preferably. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into this week's first topic of the day, which, like I mentioned, was Josh Demaro calls for theme park industry to focus on the future. During today's IAAPA, there we go. I gotta remember that. IAAPA conference virtual keynote, Chairman Disney Parks Experiences and Products, Mr. Josh Demaro, attempted to rally the theme park industry. He dared the audience to, quote, think of their business as and their industry in all new ways, unquote, following up with a call to, quote, stand on the foundation they've proudly built, unquote. Disney themselves are looking to the future, looking to reinvent themselves and the brand they have built with the parks. Going forward, Disney will focus further on inclusion, which is great to hear. And Demaro stated that the upcoming Princess and the Frog re-theme to Splash Mountain, which he also mentioned, was recently going to be fast-tracked, has been in the works for some time, and will not be the last attraction to receive this treatment. Very interesting. So, oh my god, that's not the right picture.
Yeah, I was going to wait for you to finish, too.
That's not the right picture of Josh. I'm sorry, Josh, if you're watching. But, yeah, let's go ahead. Look, he's beautiful. Anyways, great words from Mr. Josh Demaro coming out of the IAAPA conference virtual keynote. Jeremy, what are your thoughts here on what he said?
I want to clear up a misunderstanding that I've been seeing on Twitter and just around today. He wasn't addressing Walt Disney Imagineering. I just want to make that clear. He was addressing the theme park industry in general, that it's time to sort of lead the way. How can we create theme park experiences for the 21st century, for 21st century audiences in terms of representation, and also not to let COVID get in the way of quality. I agree with all of that. Yes, let's still hold our executives accountable for all the layoffs that have happened over the past few months. But in no way did he say, Imagineers, two of you, let's, I dare you to do better. He didn't say that. I mean, just quite frankly, he didn't say that, nor was he addressing Walt Disney Imagineering as a department under him. But that's still, I understand the sentiment. I agree with the sentiment. We absolutely should hold these executives accountable for the layoffs and handling just damage control.
Yeah.
I just want to clear that up. Other than that, I think he's right. I think he's right. I think he's right. Do you think he's right, Matt?
I do. Yeah, I do think he's right. I think I'd like to focus here on also what he said, that the Princess and the Frog re-theme would not be the last attraction to receive the treatment. I'm assuming when he says treatment, it's overhaul, sort of retheming to different IP style thing. So that's a very interesting phrase that he chose to say there. I guess it'd sort of be nice to maybe try and speculate here what attractions could be further receiving this treatment, because I think there were some floating around a few months ago when this was first announced. I think the Country Bears one of them. I can't remember right off the top of my head.
Yeah, that was floating around. Yeah.
But yeah, so Jeremy, what do you think would be some of the other attractions to maybe receive the Princess and the Frog re-theme treatment, as Mr. Demaro put it?
Yeah, so I was a little confused about the language. Again, people's interpretations of it online today seem to think that he was implying that there would be more re-themes. That would be the goal, re-themes. I didn't quite get that from the language. I got more there would be more projects about inclusivity and including more people. So I'm hoping, I'm always a stickler for, let's make original attractions That's one way to do it, right? If it is going to be that more attractions are going to be receiving a similar treatment like Splash Mountain, then I think maybe the timing is right to rethink the Hall of Presidents.
Sure.
I don't know if people are going to want to go in there and even see the figure of Donald Trump even standing there, but
Yeah.
I think that'll always be controversial, like forever. And I also just think it's a time to rethink how to use that space to tell a more. And same with I love American Adventure. I think it's a masterpiece, but obviously it stops at a particular time because it was made in the 80s, and just everything after World War II would have been too recent. But I think there is a way to continue on that story and even go back and tell a deeper story of American history, and more honest, so more truthful, and more engaging. I mean, it's already engaging, but it can be even more engaging as it goes deeper. And that's certainly what Epcot's about. It's certainly what I think Disney attractions are all about. It's one reason anyway. So yeah, I've always said with Hall of Presidents that we can have an attraction that either is a really engaging civics lesson, and when I say civics lesson, that sounds like the same sort of simplistic way that people use edutainment. It would be far more engaging than that, in the same way that Hall of Presidents is more engaging than what that sounds like. So, yeah, I mean, there can be an attraction in there about the branches of government. There can be an attraction in there, I've always said, about great figures in history, and about how dissenting voices is actually what makes progress, is what makes the country go, that the people are sort of the fourth branch of government, if you will. There can be a cool attraction about that. So we'll see. I think there's ways of rethinking how Disney tells history, because Disney's actually really good at creating engaging experiences centered around historical moments, history, ideas of history. So I think if they get great writers involved, if it's not kind of stale, which is my fear, that they can actually make it really engaging in the spirit of how the previous Imagineers have dealt with subject matter like that. So I think that's in the books. I know Carousel Progress was sort of rumored to be another attraction that could be rethought. I think on the show months ago, I kind of highlighted what my ideal new version of a Carousel of Progress could be for the 21st century. I don't think they would necessarily go that far with it, but there certainly is a way to make keep Carousel of Progress original and have it be more inclusive. And just explore deeper what progress means and stuff like that. So there's ways to do it. I mean, the idea of doing that has a lot of potential. And like I said with Princess and the Frog, that's IP integration that we should be celebrating, right? That actually works into the visual ideas of the lands that each of those places are in. So, yeah.
I'll be the first to admit I've never been on the American Adventure in Epcot before. I think I've only been to Epcot twice in my life, and I guess back then when I went, I didn't necessarily think it would be very entertaining to be learning about history, but yeah, I'd love to go on it eventually. But someone said in chat, homemade Imagineering in chat said some other attractions that are rumored to receive changes are It's a Small World, Peter Pan, and the Country Bears. So, yeah, Peter Pan. I think someone else said in chat that they'd remove the Native American scenes or something to that effect. But, Country Bears, I love the Country Bears. I've always been opposed on this show because Alex always didn't like the Country Bears. But now that Jeremy's here, Jeremy, do you like the Country Bear Jamboree?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, why did you have to think about it for so long?
Well, I don't think I'm a mega fan. I know a lot of people are mega fans of the Country Bears. I'm a fan of the Country Bears to the extent that that's kind of really purely a Mark Davis attraction, and it's cool to see those figures, those caricatures kind of come to life like that. I think it's fun. I think it's humorous. It's simple. It's not, one of the greatest of all time, but it's certainly fun. it's kind of sad that it exists in the very truncated version that it exists in today.
Yeah.
So you don't get the kind of full experience. It kind of starts and then goes really fast because each segment is cut down so significantly. And I remember being sad when it closed in Disneyland when I was a kid. I was very young, but I remember that being kind of a loss to that corner of the park. But here's the other thing. I don't think the solution to these problems and to the idea and the potential for more inclusion is like more IP integration.
Yeah, that's very strange.
So I think it's actually a great opportunity to explore, okay, let's look back. And this is what Josh Demaro was saying, whether he wrote that speech or not. The language to me suggests a whole wide range of potential to re-explore what Imagineering does, what Imagineering has done, the types of attractions that they've made, and really go further with it to kind of further the platform that a theme park attraction has to actually explore really interesting ideas. So I think there is a more engaging way to deal with American history that is honest, that is truthful, that is engaging, and that is original. There are ways to explore ideas of just diversity that is original. And that can be its own rebirth of a new Disney brand that is a rebirth of leading the way in the potential for what a theme park attraction can say and do. I don't know if more IP is the solution to that. It is a solution if it works thematically, like Princess and the Frog does to, Frontierland and New Orleans Square and Critter Country. I personally don't think it works well in the World Showcase, but there's a whole conversation surrounding that. So the language that he used suggested that it's a looking back at what Imagineering is, what those founding members, which is kind of loaded language, we're striving toward, and how can we make that about the 21st century and lead the way in terms of what theme parks can do. That's filled with a lot of potential.
Yeah.
However, the people right above him, the Bobs, are all about merchandising and IP integration. So there might be a clash there, or the language might just be fluff. So I think it holds a lot of potential to get right back on track with what theme parks can do, say, experience, be about, more than just what film studios, a major company, has acquired. And I hope that the language meets the fulfillment.
Yeah, and that's honestly what we should be expecting from Disney, from these past however many years it's been. But I'm glad that they're finally starting to, rethink these things. But yeah, IP is very interesting. I guess Jeremy said pretty much my thoughts on it as well. But I gotta say, I don't know if this is controversial, but I love Josh Demaro. I still have some hope for our boy Josh Demaro. I don't think he's been corrupted yet by the Bobs yet. I think he's still pure. At least he's trying to be pure to the Disney brand, the parks themselves. But yeah, I still have hope. I still have hope for our boy Josh Demaro.
All right. I think he has been corrupted until I learned that he was in a boardroom fighting for those employees' jobs and fighting for getting rid of his salary. Then will I say I agree with you, Matt, but that didn't happen.
That's fair.
Do I think that he wanted, we talked about this for weeks now, but or months, do I think that he I do think there might be some tension between how he wants to move the parks forward and how the people above him want to move the parks forward. But we don't know that. And we won't know that for a very long time. Yeah, I did like the words he had to say. He did sound like an executive saying them. But I don't even know if he wrote it. But I did like the sentiment that and the potential for the words that were said today.
Well, Josh, if you're listening, I love you, Josh. Keep trying to fight the Bobs and bring back what we love. Bring back Disney to what it should be, to its roots, or at least the parks.
Oh no, bring it forward. Bring it forward.
Bring it forward.
And in
sure, bring it
doing
forward.
so, you're more in touch with what the theme parks were designed to do and be from the start.
I believe in you, Josh. I'm sure we all want to believe in him too. But yeah, I think, Jeremy, if you have any final thoughts on this, it's time to go ahead and continue on here.
Let's move on.
All right. Well, trying to decide if we should do the ad break here, or I guess we could do it after this, and then we'll get into the questions. So let's go ahead and get right into our second topic of the day. And we don't have any COVID headlines to run down this week. We just have our two topics and then our Q&A at the end of the episode. So, Jeremy, what is the second topic that we're going to be talking about?
All right, today we're going to talk about how COVID on the rise as Disney still finds ways to cope with financial losses. So as Orange County moves back to purple from red, and if we're all familiar with the tier system in place in California, purple is the worst place to be. So California is seeing major rises in COVID cases. And because of this, Disney is announcing, well, not because of this, but as this is happening, Disney has announced financial losses totaling around $9 billion. In their earnings call this week, Disney announced their first negative year since 1980.
That's crazy.
The company has not been able to make a profit as their theme parks are closed or operating at reduced capacity, and film productions have been halted nearly all year. The company has made money from Disney Plus, however, ending the service's first year with nearly 74 million subscribers. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
This number is larger than expected and double the 36 million subscribers of Disney's other acquired streaming service, Hulu. Due to the success of their direct-to-consumer sections, the Walt Disney Company plans to expand even further into the direct-to-consumer market, with executives already having been shuffled into new roles to achieve this goal. Other executives over in Anaheim have been furloughed this week as Disneyland remains closed. Executives, salaried, and hourly workers have been furloughed as Disneyland has failed to open since originally closing in March. Disneyland will continue to remain closed for the time being as COVID cases continue to rise all across the country, and Orange County has been moved back from the state's red tier to the worse purple tier. So yeah, I mean, this is just, we're a broken record. I mean, I feel like there's always a story to report about this every week. So yeah, California, I mean, if you look at a map of California, most counties are going back to a purple tier. It's not good, purple or red. There's a couple yellow, which is good, but it's not good. Cases are on the rise in California, and they're on the rise across the country. They're on the rise here in New York as well. So yeah, it doesn't look like Disneyland is going to open anytime soon, but I've kind of accepted that at this point. And I mean, it makes sense to me. But yeah, Matt, what do you think about all this crazy, all the fourth quarter returns and the losses, but the gains? I also want to point out that Disney Plus, I think Chapek said something last week or something about how they're going to be like a direct-to-consumer company. Like that's the main goal of Disney moving forward. So what do we think about all of this?
Yeah, so direct-to-consumer implies that they're going to be focusing more on the streaming services, putting more content onto Disney Plus, which, you know, since Disney Plus launched actually just a year ago, just the other week, I believe. And we should reiterate that Disney Plus has 74 million subscribers in only a year, and Hulu has been out for way longer than Disney Plus, and Disney Plus has more than double that of Hulu, which is really crazy to think about. But yeah, Disney Plus sort of being the focus going forward of the company is almost like a no-brainer at this point, because the parks have always been the focus of where most of the revenue comes from for the company. And now that the parks have been closed, it just makes perfect sense to shift the focus to filming more live action content, TV shows, movies for Disney Plus. Mandalorian is back. Season or episode 3 came out the other day. Great Mandalorian, I'm sure that did a huge boost to Disney Plus subscribers recently. But yeah, very interesting. And Disneyland is never going to reopen at this rate, honestly.
No. That's
until
not
like
true.
a vaccine or something is released. I mean, because we mentioned here, what is it? California went back to purple from red. COVID cases are on the rise here, New Mexico, and down in Texas, El Paso, where I live, skyrocketing. It's very weird. It just seems like Disneyland has been closed since March. I think it'll probably go at least a full year next March until it reopens. I think that's a pretty safe bet to make. So sucks, especially for the cast members who are still, still furloughed, especially for the cast members who lost their jobs too as well. But at this rate, nothing's gonna happen. Everybody around the country just seems to, not want to wear their masks, not want to get tested. But, I guess that's sort of a different conversation. But yeah, it's very interesting. And Jeremy mentioned Disney's first negative year since 1980. That is really kind of crazy to think about. I've said this before. I'll be very interested to read like the books that are written during this about this era of Disney history, with the transition from Bob to Bob, and then of course with 2020 being just like the worst year in history for the company. But I don't know. It's I don't know. It's like Jeremy said, we sound like a broken record just these past however many months it's been. But I'm glad that Disney Plus, out of all the darkness out there in the Disney company, it seems like Disney Plus really is Disney's sort of nugget of gold. Is that I don't think that's a saying. The one thing that
I like it.
Disney's nugget of gold. Oh my gosh, the one thing that's helping them make profits. So that's I'm glad to hear that Disney Plus is still going strong. I would have thought that it would have sort of tapered off by now, because it was mostly just like a backlog of just like 1950s movies, live action movies. But now that they've been adding more stuff, glad to see that they've been adding more original content. But yeah, Jeremy, I'm passing the torch back to you.
Yeah, I know it's so hard to why we have lockdown. California has such a already strict COVID policies. Why is this happening? Same with New York. Well, you can't merely lock down without a plan. Just like you can't produce a vaccine without a plan to distribute it. I was just reading today, a doctor was saying how there's been so much progress made with a vaccine, a ton of progress made. It's very, very optimistic, actually. However, they are behind in any sort of national plan to distribute the vaccine. I wonder why. I won't talk about it. But that's fine. We're here now, and I feel hopefully we can get right on top of creating that distribution plan. And as we're coming to this sort of second spike all over, I've heard talks of sort of a second lockdown. But here's the thing to
Some
feel
of us never
optimistic
left the
about.
first
I know
lockdown.
that feels horrible, because it feels like we haven't made any progress at all. And we sort of haven't made any progress at all, and that's kind of the point. It doesn't mean that lockdowns don't work. It means that you can't just lock down and do nothing. So if there is a second lockdown, that makes me feel devastated too. But at the same time, with this lockdown, they will be curating with all the leading doctors a actual national plan to get the virus under control, and hopefully this time distribute a vaccine. So there's actually cause to be very optimistic about going through to this next year. We may still live in COVID land for the first half of 2021. Be prepared for that. But I can promise you that I feel more confident than ever that we'll be able to globally get this under control faster than ever before. So it may feel like a setback, but it's actually there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is a step forward. There are steps forward being made. So yeah, we're gonna get through this.
Hang in there,
We're
guys.
gonna get through this.
Yeah, we'll get through
We're gonna get
this.
through this, and I promise you, Disneyland will reopen. I promise
The
you.
churros will be there waiting
promise
for
you.
all of us, you guys. The popcorn.
Just maybe not tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it will, I promise you. There are steps actually being taken to make sure that happens on a national and global level. So, yes.
Wear your masks, people. Yeah, and Mark also mentioned, we sort of forgot to mention this also last week. Buena Vista Street, the reopening date for that was announced this upcoming Thursday, the 19th. Yeah, we didn't get to report on that last week. And I just remembered this week because Mark said it in chat. And Mark will actually be there that day filming footage for us for the show that day so we can use on the following Monday. So shout out to Mark for being the real MVP. We'll get some first-hand looks inside of Buena Vista Street. We'll see if the Christmas tree is up. That'll be pretty cool. But yeah, that's something to look forward to, you guys. If you're in the SoCal area near downtown Disney, head on over, or I guess maybe just stay inside, actually. Yeah, maybe just
be
not.
cautious.
Yeah.
You do what makes you feel the safest.
Sure.
Yeah. But, be aware of the rise in the state of California. But, I'm not going to judge you if you decide to go out. I've eaten at an outdoor restaurant, and you have to do what makes you feel safe, and you have to do what makes you not feel like you're putting other people in danger as well.
Yeah, well, happy that Buena Vista Street is reopening. And, yeah, I think we touched on pretty much everything. Yeah, 74 million in a year subscribers. That's really crazy to think. What would be double that next year for the 2 years? If someone can do math, that'd be 148 million. Is that right? Subscribers?
I don't know.
Neither do I. I could get my calculator out, but I'm trusting my noggin up here. I think that's 140. Because 7 plus 7 is 14, so it'd be 100.
Now it's time to hear from Puckermint.
Yeah, Puckermint. All right.
And when we come back, we're going to be doing a Q&A, so you can still write questions in the chat. You can still submit them on Twitter. You can still even give a ring and.
Yeah, we got a couple. I think we have a couple voicemails.
I think it might be a fail. There's only a few, I think, but we'll still answer them, and maybe it'll be a weekly thing. I know that we'll run out of questions. Everyone will run out of questions. We'll do it. We'll do it sometime again. So. Yes.
Well, before we do our first one, it's time to get into this week's Puckermint. This week's sponsors for the show. So let's go ahead and hear about the sponsors. If you guys are wondering where you can find even more family-friendly live streams just like this one, head on over to theliveplace.com. The Live Place is your headquarters for great family-friendly live streams. They cover anything from Disney to other vacation spots, various variety shows, and have some amazing streamers like Resort TV 1 and myself. Also, be sure to check out puckermint.com, where you can find amazing pins and stickers. Puckermint is based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, just a few hours from where I live, and since I'm a big believer in supporting local artists, we decided to partner up. Be sure to use the coupon code down below when you make your next order. Again, that's puckermint.com and puckermint on Instagram. We're back, everybody. Welcome. We're back. And it's Q&A time, everybody. I wish I could have some cool People Mover music to play in the background, but I don't have it loaded up right away. But yeah, question and answer time. We do have some questions here to get to from Twitter, as well as some from the chat that I've screenshotted. And I guess we can maybe I'll do one, Jeremy will do one, alternate between the two of us. So, yeah.
Okay.
let's see. We can do. I'll start here. The first one. This is from @DoleWhip71. Big Beautiful Disney. What are some expectations you guys have for Avengers Campus when it finally opens? I'm very excited for it, and was wondering some other opinions. So I don't know, my expectations, I've been thinking about this a lot actually the past couple months, because it was supposed to open for Disneyland's birthday, I believe, this past July, but it hasn't because construction stopped all around the resorts, both sides of the coast. I believe construction stopped. More recently, construction picked back up. I feel like Avengers Campus is going to be sort of, I don't know why, but it's giving me sort of like kid area style, like, not to like bash on, I guess that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does sort of give me like sort of, I don't know if like kids area, sort of like in the same vein as like Toontown or like what Bugs Land was, where it was like made for a specific age range of like children, maybe not like 5 years old, but maybe like 16, 15, 16, 17, 14, I don't know, would be like a good age range. That's at least just how I'm picturing it in my head. I don't know why, but I think it'll be neat. I love Marvel, Spider-Man, love Spider-Man. Glad he's getting his own ride. Hopefully it's a cool ride. Jeremy, what about you?
My expectations of it, I don't really know. I think it's going to be well done.
Sure.
It's funny, it's interesting. I've been thinking a lot about like what it means to say like I like Disney. I mean, it's such a blanket thing. It's such a general thing to say. The past decade of Disney, the rebranding effort has been, they've really become, over the past 20 years or so, this multinational media conglomerate that, they acquire different studios, they acquire different content, they acquire different companies, and then it becomes under the umbrella of the parent company of Disney. So it's so interesting. I enjoyed the MCU films. I had a good time. I am by no means a Marvel fanatic. I respect them. I enjoy the content that comes out of it. But it's so difficult because of what it means to say Disney, and they're very good at what they do in terms of rebranding. Yeah. You say Disney, and I just feel like so many people feel like they can talk about Marvel with me, and I'm like, I can't talk about it with you because I don't have a solid opinion on it. I don't love it. I mean, I it's not that I don't like it. I enjoyed all of those movies that came out. I had a fun time. I'm in it's very interesting. It's like I feel sometimes expected to really be a huge Marvel fan, and if I'm not, then somehow how can I call myself a Disney fan? I find that so. It's not that I find it absurd or insulting. That'd be stupid, but I find it a little jarring because it's like that's so odd. That's so interesting how easily it was to just consider it be under that umbrella, and therefore it is Disney. It is a part of it in some way. So my expectation of it, I think that language is specific, is that I think it'll be well done. I think it'll be clean. I think it'll be fun, and I think it'll be a lot of fun, especially if you love Marvel. I don't really have a strong opinion about Avengers Campus because Marvel is not my barrier to entry, if you will, into Disney. So I think it's a problem in the Disney fan community. I do. I think on all sides. So if there's someone like me, and I've had a very hard time. I know this is kind of a tangent, but but I think it's related. I've been trying to figure out how would I classify myself as a Disney fan? Yeah, sure, I could talk about Disney history. I like Disney history, but I don't think that's how I would categorize so it's hard. I'm still trying to figure it out. But I feel like I have to figure it out because I have to specify what my personal barrier to entry is into this ginormous company eating company called Disney. I don't know if you feel kind of the same way, Matt. I know you love Marvel, so that might be easier for you to. And I like Star Wars too, more than Marvel, so it's kind of easier for me to embrace that than it was for Marvel stuff. But I don't know if you feel the same way. I know you love Star Wars probably as much as you love Marvel, so it might have been easier for you to sort of consider it under the same umbrella.
Well, it's weird. I'm the opposite. I consider more Marvel Star Wars or more Marvel Disney for me than Star Wars. Well, no.
Oh, wow,
is that,
fascinating.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't like Star Wars all that much anymore. I mean, I like The Mandalorian and I like the older movies, the originals.
Oh yeah, well, I mean overall, right? I mean just overall Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars, I mean, it's all right. I'd categorize myself, I guess, more of a Marvel comic book fan than a Star Wars fan. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I consider them both to be, well, it depends. I have a good time, or a good, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm good in my head separating.
Me neither. I just spoke.
Well, I can separate the new trilogy as Disney. Like, I've accepted that that's Disney, but I can't really accept that the other previous movies are.
Yeah, I feel that.
Quote Disney. So that's kind of.
I agree with that completely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of weird to me. So I always refer to like the Disney ones as like the, not necessarily the bad ones, but the not so good ones. But yeah, Marvel's cool. I love Marvel. I'm excited for Avengers Campus, and I think I'm okay with Marvel being part of Disney, I guess. They've been doing
I guess it's not a matter of me not being okay with it. It's just like, I think the way we talk to each other as like people in this fandom, we need to be willing to like listen to what each other's barrier to entry is, as opposed to just assuming that if your barrier to entry wasn't my barrier to entry, that somehow that doesn't make you a Disney fan. And it goes on all sides of this. I mean, I just think it's a problem all around. You have people more aligned with me who are more like, I'm a fan of those original Disney, fan of Mary Blair. I think that's how I categorize myself. There's a body of work from a very specific collaboration of artists that I'm a fan of. And they just happen to work on films ranging from Snow White through, Fox and the Hound.
Yeah.
And they happen to work on the theme parks from 1955 through, the 80s, some of them the 90s. So to me, it's that's more of my barrier to entry. But it's just so interesting.
Yeah, that's so sort of brought up a whole other side conversation. Because I was thinking to myself, people always ask me, because I have a bunch of Disney tattoos. I run a Disney YouTube channel. They always ask me, why do you love Disney so much? And I can't
explain it to people.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I'd more categorize myself as a fan of Walt era Disney.
Yeah,
but
I have to be careful with that too,
stuff.
Which is what I'll let you finish.
Yeah, well,
continue something you're going to say.
I don't know. It's weird. So would I then consider myself more of like a Walt and like Imagineer fan as opposed to like a quote unquote Disney fan? Because I love like their new movies are okay. Tangled is probably one of my favorite of the most recent movies that they've made. I'm more interested in like the older age stuff. So yeah, I don't know. It's been what's been going on in my mind recently. It's weird.
Yeah, I think because Disney has become this large, conglomerate, that this will be impossible to do, but I'm trying to find a way to find a language, sort of new language to categorize like Disney fan. Yeah. I just think we have to break it up into categories now. Yeah. In the sense of like, and I've heard people describe themselves, if I'm not a Disney fan, I'm a Walt Disney fan.
Sure.
I don't even think that's me. Like there's a lot that I admire about Walt's contributions to the arts and sciences. But for me, I actually think it's that specific collaboration of artists and their body of work together That's my like barrier to entry. But I just have to find the language for that. But it's interesting. Just actually last week, I was talking with a group of friends, and we were playing this party game. I'm not going to go into what the party game was, but they did this thing where they were all Disney princesses.
Was it Spin the
and I had
Bottle,
to guess
Jeremy?
which ones they were. No, it wasn't Spin the Bottle. You're listening. And so one of them asked me, I said, well, is there a specific Disney princess you relate to? And I said, no. No, there isn't. And he was like, oh, that's curious. And I wonder why you're a Disney fan. And I didn't respond to that, but I was really fascinated by it because I was like, I don't know how to explain to that person that for me, it's like the background art of Mary Blair that like is why I like a particular movie. You know, it's like, I don't know how to explain that. And it goes back to what we talk about often on the show of like Disney's really good at telling their own history the way they want it to be told. And they want you, you know, it's like the public sentiment is like the Disney princesses as one entity, as sort of one film genre, like a manufactured genre of film. And it's just so interesting. I can't explain. I will never be able to explain to that person that it's like, actually, no, it's like, it's, you know, it's Frank Thomas's character animation that is why I like a particular movie. It's like, I can't do that because the public perception is not about the artists who are making the film. It's like not even the films themselves, but like the films as they exist in this wider brand. Yeah. Anyway, well, that went off in all different directions.
No, yeah, great. This is only the first question, yeah. No, but
That's
we'll
my
end
fault.
we'll end it here because this is a really interesting topic. Because I have the same problem. Like I relate to that problem that you just mentioned, Jeremy. So we got to come up with a term to categorize us as. If you guys in chat can, you know, think of something that would be cool. I don't know. I can't think of off the top of my head. Well, I guess question for you guys: what Disney princess do you relate to? Put that in the chat. We'd love to hear. But Jeremy, what's our second question here from Twitter?
Yeah, and we'll try to keep these concise now. But I enjoyed that, even if nobody else did. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
This comes from at Sean Horace on Twitter. He says, "What Disney theme park history do you want to talk about the most that you haven't done recently, or I would say at all, probably?" Matt, do you want to go first on that one?
Yeah, sure. What Disney theme park history do you want to talk about most that you haven't done recently? I'd love to talk about Epcot. I feel like we haven't really touched much on Epcot like at all on this channel. We've made, I guess the channel started with just, you know, Disneyland, Walt Disney World stuff, and then I branched out to Disneyland Paris and all that stuff. And I've really, for no particular reason, I guess, just sort of strayed away from Epcot. I guess because I don't know a lot about Epcot. I'd love to learn more, which is why I'd love to talk about it more as well, to learn more, to, you know. But yeah, Epcot, I'd love to do more videos on Epcot, which, you know, will be coming soon. Jeremy, what about you?
Yeah, I'm with you, Matt. I'm glad we're always on the same page. So in terms of our sort of artistic visions for the channel, but yeah, Epcot, absolutely. It's the way, I will say, we are working on Historyland. The way that this new version of Historyland is, we'll probably reveal more details later, but we probably won't get to Epcot for a little bit of time, unfortunately. But if you don't think the gears have been turning. The gears have been turning up here for sure about a different way to go about telling Epcot history. And I think by the time we get to it, by the time we find our sea legs with this new version of Historyland, I think it'll be a really fascinating look at that history. But I agree, it is a part of Disney history that it's sort of the eye roll part of Disney history, which I think is why I want to talk about it. And I got to say, Epcot fans do it to themselves. And what I want to do is kind of eliminate that and just kind of tell Epcot history honestly, and of course, to kind of answer the question even more so, something I think that we've been working toward doing is telling more of this history. Again, going back to just, I guess it's personal for me because it's just my barrier to entry to why I like Disney. Doing it from the perspective of these things were created by a group of artists collaborating to create a body of work together. And I think we're going to lean more into that muscle. I don't think many people tell Disney history from that perspective. It's either Walt did everything and he saw everything and he did everything. And then when Walt died, it was like Disney, the entity, doing everything. It's like, and I just think that is not the greatest way to go about telling the history. And the great thing about DizTube is that pretty much everyone is telling Disney history from their own personal perspective. Defunctland's really good at sort of giving us a sense of a really broad historical overview, and it zooms into specific moments. But I think we want to tell a more personal story about the artists who make the body of work.
Let's go. Epcot was our answer, Mr. Sean. And
Epcot was the answer.
Yeah.
And of course, more than that, too.
Yes.
Sorry, this is my fault. I'm making this. I'll leave the show. I'll just be you, Matt.
Oh, my gosh. Me, myself, and I. Well, we do have another question here from Twitter from @Moxie_Maxie. What's your favorite part of the holidays at Disneyland? Very seasonal question. I was thinking about this the other day, too. That's so weird that this question was asked. I was thinking about this because normally around this time would be the time that I'm planning my trip to Disneyland, because for the past 2 years, I've been wanting to make it like a tradition to go during Christmas time to meet everybody again. And I have to say, for sure, I guess it'd probably be a close tie for me would be seeing all the lights down Main Street, all the decorations on Main Street, because that's like one of the first things that you see when you go underneath the train station. You see Town Square, and then you see Main Street, especially at night. Main Street at night with all the Christmas lights is just amazing. But also, I really love the fake snow that they do. I think it's gingerbread flavored smelling Snope, snow soap or whatever they call it.
Snope.
Like the Star Wars guy, Snope. But
Yeah.
but yeah, those are it's a kind of a tie. I guess they sort of tie into each other because they do that on Main Street. But yeah, that'd be my answer. The lights on Main Street and the fake snow that they do.
This is kind of broad, but it's the only way I can describe it. The atmosphere, just the atmosphere overall. If you like zoom out, just the atmosphere, the feel of it, and quick answer to that one.
Yeah, I don't know. It's almost like Christmas.
It's
time.
A feeling. There's like, it's weird. Yeah, it's like there's this specific feeling in the air and in like on Main Street.
It's true. There's like this aura of just like happiness.
Yeah,
of everybody.
I don't know how to describe it. I think it's partly the music that they do on Main Street during the holidays, but yeah, there's like this specific feeling.
Yeah.
Gotta
love it. Can't go this year. Hopefully next year. That'd be cool. But Jeremy, what's our next question that we got lined up here?
Okay. Our next question comes from Lilac Rose on Twitter. Do you think that they'll ever update Tomorrowland once Disneyland does reopen? And if you had to remove one attraction from Tomorrowland, what would it be? Ooh.
This is always like the go-to question that anybody asks, like a Disney.
I know.
I love talking Tomorrowland, not hating.
A hot topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we answer this every few months or so on the show. Either someone brings it up in chat or there's some news regarding, I don't know. We end up talking about this all the time. It's hard for me. I'm kind of an advocate for radical change, always radical change to Tomorrowland as often as possible.
Yeah.
But that's just impossible to do anymore. So yeah, I'm always for a Tomorrowland that's fresh, that's new, that's as robust as possible, that explores new things.
Yeah.
So if you had it my way, I'd be like, why not take down everything? What happens? Let's see what happens.
What's the worst
See what
that
happens.
could happen?
Rebuild it from the bottom up. It's not that I don't. I'm not saying that out of dislike for Tomorrowland. The history of Tomorrowland is fantastic. I'm kind of bummed that I have no memory of Tomorrowland in its final days before the night. But I do remember that '98 Tomorrowland and its premiere look. I think because I was a kid, I found it exciting, and it was like the first real major new Disney experience that I was able to experience. I'm kind of like, ideally I'm an advocate for like let's do it all, let's redo it all. As radical as the '67 Tomorrowland, but for the 21st century and onward. I know Matt's gonna he'll say what he's.
I'll say the
he's gonna
same
be
thing.
More practical.
Well, yeah, I'll say the same thing.
Yeah.
Tear it all down. I'm sure if you have the right person helming the project, it'll go over. Yeah. I mean, and the budget is in line with said Imagineer's vision, then we'll ideally get a perfect Tomorrowland that won't have to be torn down and rebuilt, every 10 or 15 years to try and keep up with the future. I think, do you think that they'll ever update Tomorrowland? Eventually, those supposed to be in the works before 2020 happened. It was planned. Not necessarily soon. It was planned. It was still sort of like a far, not so distant project after Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway and Fantasyland expansion.
Only really rumored though.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'm sure there's a Blue Sky team that's been working on it. That's probably now been fired. But
yeah.
But do I think they will? I don't think in any sort of robust way. I think it'll only be redone by repainting things and like reutilize and overlays.
Sure.
I don't really see them. I don't see us getting a radical new Tomorrowland, like a la '67. I just don't see that happening. It would require the right leadership.
Yeah. It's not really much of a return on investment, you would imagine. I don't think many general Disney fans are clamoring for a Tomorrowland update the way that people like us are. But, it's possible. We'll see. I've had hope for the past 22 years I've been on this earth. Even when I was just born, I knew, troubles are coming for Tomorrowland. But yeah, hopefully in the future we will see a brand new Tomorrowland. Probably not within the next 10, 15 years at least, which is kind of sad to hear or sad to think about. But eventually they'll get to it. But let's see, we do have another question here from Ben Lasher in chat. If Disney said we have to destroy one ride, but the other one stays open forever, which would you choose? Haunted Mansion or Pirates of the Caribbean? So, the wording that he chose here implies that if they were to redo
Disney,
this again, then Pirates or Haunted Mansion could not be destroyed again. So, again, this is sort of like another debate that people love to talk about. I've always been of the mindset that Pirates is superior, just barely, to Haunted Mansion, at least in my eyes. For me, nothing can beat sitting in a boat floating in an air-conditioned warehouse and hearing the banjo of the bayou floating down with the clamoring of people eating at the restaurant. Nothing can beat that for me. Haunted Mansion does come close, but it's just something about Pirates that I just couldn't say goodbye to.
I would because when there's a hypothetical, I don't like answering hypotheticals. because I have to tear apart the specificity of the language in order to understand even how to go about answering it. I don't know if anyone is the same way. I'm a bad test taker because of that. But I could have been a good lawyer, I guess. Not that I ever wanted to be. So because Ben did not specify a park, I will say I'd be fine with if they got rid of Disney World's Pirates, if Disney World's Haunted Mansion stayed forever, and then I get to keep Disneyland's brilliant Pirates of the Caribbean and Haunted Mansion that I grew up with. Now, of course, I'm realizing he could have very easily meant as a whole, across all parks.
Oh my gosh.
You have to choose. In that case, see, I have to come up with all the different situations. I have a very strong personal attachment to both attractions. I always say I go to Disneyland. If I hit Pirates and Haunted Mansion, I'm good for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So because I just read Boundless Realm.
Plug.
Oh, this is very hard. I think because I had a stronger personal attachment to Haunted Mansion as a kid, I think I would, if it came down to it, if it was my decision, if I had to choose, even though I don't want to see any of them go, I think I'd probably end up saying goodbye to Pirates, have my final goodbyes, and keep the one that'll have the most childhood connection with, which would be Haunted Mansion.
Well, a rip Pirates.
I wouldn't want to do that, but You set up the hypothetical.
Well, looks like Jeremy and I are of the opposite here. I can't say goodbye to Pirates. I'd be willing to say goodbye to Haunted Mansion, but thank you, Mr. Ben Lasher, for that question. And Jeremy, what's next? And it looks like this question is directed to you, so...
I guess it is.
Yeah.
It's more of a, I guess, like a historical question from Everett Fryman in chat. How come Walt Disney Company only put Adventure Through Inner Space in Disneyland Resort and not Magic Kingdom or the other parks? That's well, first of all, that's a good question, and I guess thank you for asking a historical question.
Yeah.
I'll try to keep this as concise as possible. And Matt, just wave your arms if I start to go off on a tangent about Tomorrowland. So Adventure Through Inner Space was specifically created for the 1967 Tomorrowland. Walt Disney World was still in very early stages when they would have been planning Adventure Through Inner Space. So it was specifically designed for Disneyland when Disneyland was the only option, and they were still figuring out what to do with Walt Disney World. Now, that being said, they were still in the early stages of planning the Magic Kingdom in Florida, but there was a very strong advocacy, both with those first generation Imagineers and from Walt, even though he died after, when or before Adventure Through Inner Space opened, that they make the Magic Kingdom as unique as possible, as separate from Disneyland as possible, but of course the same type of park. So in Magic Kingdom's Tomorrowland, they were exploring partnerships with, pursuing sponsorships from different companies than they pursued for Disneyland's Tomorrowland. Adventure Through Inner Space is sponsored by Monsanto. So they were looking to do different dark rides in Magic Kingdom's Tomorrowland, just for the sake of, they didn't want to do carbon copies. The only exceptions were that they were making dual copies of Haunted Mansion at the same time that they were working on it. But they, of course, were building Haunted Mansion, after they were working on Adventure Through Inner Space, right? So that's a little different. But I think it's just the intent of the parks. Walt made it very clear he did not want he wanted these parks to be as different as possible. And I think those artists who, of course, were collaborators with Walt, who worked on the park, who are an extension of Walt in the sense that they probably all agreed with that idea, because they're the artists working on it, that we get different dark rides in early Tomorrowland and Magic Kingdom that we only see there in history. If you had wings, there's only one technical copy, and that's Mission to Mars. But that's about it. And of course, you get a different version of Carousel Progress a little later. But yeah.
Venture through inner space. I wish I could have experienced it in live action, in real life.
In live action. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Everett, for that question. And we have a kind of an easy question here by none other than Avery himself. Which monorail is better design-wise, Tokyo or Disneyland? I'm assuming he means California Disneyland. I am of the mindset that the Tokyo monorails are just plain ugly. You know, I said it. I love the Disneyland monorails. I love the Walt Disney World monorails better, design-wise. Disneyland is second. But Tokyo, I'm just not a fan of how tall they look, and I don't know, it just feels, I don't know. There's something off about them to me that I don't personally like them. So I would choose Disneyland over Tokyo. What about you, Jeremy?
I think what the Tokyo monorails try to do is more in line with parts of Japanese culture. So I think it's hard for me to just like denounce it outright. I do think it's okay. Long story short, because we got to keep these short, which is my fault. Disneyland. I mean, Bob's Gurr design and also John Hench's concept drawings as well. They just communicate what that Tomorrowland was going to communicate, which is the world on the move, motion, right? And it's the way it's designed. It's just so sleek and smooth. And even the 2007 newer monorails, I think, go back to that original. Really try to capture that energy of the John Hench concept art and the Bob Gurr design, and it's beautiful.
And I guess I will give a point to Tokyo because their monorails actually get updated, and they look clean, so.
That's true.
Yeah, so that's one for Tokyo, but more for Disneyland, I guess. But we have another question here. Jeremy, what's up next?
This is from Homemade Imagineering. I guess this is more going back to what we were talking about on the show. Says, so with Josh's statement to create a more inclusive environment. Oh, yeah, I did read this. Interesting. Beyond the Splash Mountain retheme, other attractions have been rumored to receive updates. Well, what do we think we'll see? Well, we talked about that on the show, so I don't need to go back and re. But thank you for the question. But we did talk about it. So you can go back and hear what we had to say.
Yes. Well, I guess it's my turn then. So Sam asked a question here. Keeping with the inclusivity theme, do Disneyland / Disney World hotels still have Bibles in each room? That's a good question. And I will say it's been a while since I've been inside of a Disneyland hotel room, probably a good 10 plus years. So I couldn't say personally, Sam, but if somebody in chat happened to recently visit a Disneyland or Walt Disney World resort hotel, I guess they can tell us if they still have Bibles in them. It's something that you see in pretty much every other hotel around the country, really. So, I mean, you'd assume that they do it, but I don't know. Who knows? I personally don't. Jeremy, do you happen to know the answer?
I mean, I haven't checked the drawers, but I'm going to venture to say
do
that
people
that's
actually
not something
use the drawers in hotel rooms?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But that's sort of a traditional hotel thing in general. I would imagine that will always be the case.
Nate said in chat, last time I checked, there were still Bibles. But when was that, Nate? When exactly was that? Well, anyways, thank you, Sam, for that great question. And then, Jeremy, what do we have up next here?
Tony Mac in chat says, "Where's the mustaches? It's Movember."
I was just thinking about that.
I have stubble. I can grow this out semi well. It doesn't look good. It looks messy, but I can't fully grow this out.
Yeah. I tried last year, and I only made it like 4 days in because it just gets itchy. So I don't know if I can really grow like a full mustache or beard. I've never tried. this probably would have been a good year to try it, but I guess next November we'll try and, or at least I will. I'll try and grow out my mustache for Movember. But I think we have some more. Excuse me. Let me go ahead and scan the chat because I did see that there was at least one question.
Unless everyone wants us to stop.
Guys, don't do it. Okay. Homemade Imagineering says, anyways, what do you think about It's a Small World's future after hearing about what Alex had to say? Obviously, COVID will delay everything. What would they even replace It's a Small World with? I'm trying to remember what he was referring to about what Alex would have said.
So he wrote it above. He said, I had a discussion with Alex about Small World, and he told me that at one point the execs wanted to pave it over for a Fantasyland expansion, but Kim Irvine, along with a few others, stopped it.
I remember that, yeah.
And so I guess the question is, if you so basically, like, do we think that would happen? And if it did happen, what would they do? What would they replace it with?
I think we said at the time, I wouldn't put it past them to do it, because they've done so many other crazy things in the past. Wouldn't put it past them. It'd be terrible if they did. But if they did just have to repave or to just tear down It's a Small World and use it for another attraction, I'd say probably a bigger and better It's a Small World would be what I would want in its place.
Well, I don't think the question is what you... what is it? What is it what you want? What would they... It was more like a rhetorical question. What would they even replace it with? Yeah, and I totally believe that execs would want to do that. Again, the Bobs have made it very clear. I think they have a strong grudge against any attraction that does not fulfill their branding ideas, how to brand the Disney company and how to specifically utilize the parks to promote the Disney brand, right? Yeah. And there are just many attractions that don't fulfill that. We talk about Haunted Mansion, but I gotta say, like, I know people are gonna say I'm crazy, but like, there's a part of me that is very paranoid for the future of the Haunted Mansion. Believe me, if there's something I learned from that crazy summer of 2017, for those who remember, anything is possible when it comes to getting rid of rides.
Yeah.
So, and how easy it will be. I swear, you will scroll through Twitter and you will see people going, this is a good thing. Yes, let's get rid of Haunted Mansion. I swear you'll see it. Anyway, I don't want to talk about that. We're talking about Small World. So, yes, I believe execs would do that. Do I believe it is still an active plan? I don't know. I mean, I know Small World was, I think, in talks of being one of the rides as a part of the inclusive thing. That one's hard. That one, to me, so specifically embodies like specific artists' work.
Yeah.
That facade is, that is a Rolly Crump. There should be a plaque. It is such a unique and iconic piece of architecture that if they were to disassemble it, I would hope that they wouldn't destroy it, because that piece of architecture needs to be on display somewhere.
Yeah.
The ride itself, that may, unfortunately, if that's the case, that may have to go. But that's the thing. It's hard because when these things are being created, it's easy for Walt to say things like, I hope it always is growing and changing and things are coming and things are going because it's new, it's different, and it should always feel that way too. But at a certain point, it's hard to go, wait a minute, that's a very, very important piece of work.
Yeah.
And I think it's this kind of fine line, is our theme parks more like theater, which is ephemeral, which an original production of something as important or iconic as it is, it opens and it closes and then it lives in memory. Is that the theme park experience. It's so hard because I would hate to lose that architecture. I would hate to lose at the Alice Davis costumes. I would hate to lose just the totality of it being Mary Blair. I would hate to lose that. And I know Kim Irvine understands that. Say what you want about Kim Irvine. She's definitely one of the last voices in Imagineering who's an advocate for preservation is a hard word to use because it's not the best word to use, but there are certain attractions that are they're just so vividly someone's voice, someone's unique artistic voice that it just feels wrong to me to just pave it over. Now, what would they pave it over with? Easy. They'll do a Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, get rid of Snow White's scary. They'll build Arendelle. I mean, it's easy what they would want to pay. And and I'm sure it'll be nice and but yeah, it's a hard. I don't know if you feel similarly, because I hate to say no, I don't believe that the park should just stay static at all, period. But there just are certain pieces that feel so culturally significant that it's hard it's hard to argue so definitively that just get rid of it. The parks are always growing, always changing. Get rid of it. It's like, well, I don't know. I don't always know if that's the right. So it's difficult. I grapple with that. Because again, with Tomorrowland, I'm an advocate for let's go. Let's keep moving. Let's do something new. Space Mountain's popular. So what? Take it down. Whatever. Let's do something. Let's explore. Why not? What's Tomorrowland? Let's go.
Let's go.
But and that's hard. That's hard because that's so distinctly John Hench, right? So it's difficult. It's difficult.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I wouldn't put it past the company to pave over a Small World. Hopefully they don't.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite rides, go-to attractions. But I think we have one more question to get to from chat, and then we have a voicemail to get to here.
Okay, so let's go. I'll be brief, which I won't be, but
Let's see. From Ben Lasher, kind of an easy question. Do you think Disney will pull Johnny Depp out of Pirates now with all the things going on with him? Very interesting question, because there's been some recent drama circulating around Mr. Jonathan Department, Johnny Depp, as most people call him. It's interesting, because a few months ago, if you asked me this question, I would have probably said yes, but since then, I feel like there's been some revelations in that Johnny Depp sort of storyline that's been going on where, Amber Heard was really the one that was blackmailing him, cut part of his finger off, beat him, all that kind of stuff. So if you would have asked me, like I said a few months ago, when it was sort of a flip-flop, I would have said yes. Johnny Depp probably would have go from the attraction. But, they're probably even moving away from him in the films to begin with. But, I don't know. Honestly, I hope they do. I'd love for them to revert everything back to how it was when the ride first opened. And they're making progress little by little, where they put in the narration in the cave area. But, that's a good question. I'll say for now, he'll probably stay for the next 5 maybe years. I don't know. That's my prediction. But Jeremy, what about you?
I don't know. I don't know. Part of me wants to say they're building to that, and I don't know if it has to do with the drama going on surrounding him as it does just pirate franchise exhaustion.
Yeah.
And the bringing back and the plussing of the cave scene was so positively received, more so than the change that they advertised more, which was the auction scene.
Yeah.
that part of me is like, I hope they heard that positive response, because the scene just feels so the cave scene just feels so right now with that return.
Nice.
And even the plussing, that's how you plus a ride, right? And it also gives me hope that there are people in Imagineering who say, okay, let's take this opportunity to bring this back and plus it. And I'm hoping that there's more of them in there. Hopefully they haven't been fired or let go.
Yeah.
That if there would be another refurbishment of Pirates, then maybe we would see a new ending without Johnny Depp. And then another refurbishment comes, and then maybe Johnny Depp is gone. And then maybe we have a plussed Pirates that is original, unique, and still has, even with differences that are been put in and plus throughout the years. Say what you want about the auction scene, the new auction scene. It is still culturally significant and better without the movie pushing. So I'm kind of optimistic about it, but I think it has more to do with Imagineers who are like kind of like let's slowly like go back to how this ride should be experienced and pirate franchise exhaustion than it is the drama surrounding Johnny Depp.
Sure. Well, Disney, if you're watching, I have a good pitch for the next Pirates movie. They should just film the ride and just release it in theaters. I'd pay
Stick to YouTube.
I'd pay $10 a ticket to watch that for a 20-minute ride through in theaters. Yeah, well, hopefully they do. Not anything against Johnny Depp or the Pirates movies. It's just kind of awkward having him, at least to me, having him in there. But
yeah, I'm just over it. It was kind of a cool gimmick at first. I'm not gonna lie. Like there was a part of me that was like, oh, I don't think this works. And then there was a part of me that was like, that's kind of cool. But I'm over it.
Hey, when they came out, the animatronics.
I've been over it.
The animatronics were really lifelike when they first came out. So
yeah,
they at least had that going for them at the time. But now they're kind of aged. But anyways, we do have a final question here. And let's go ahead and listen to this voicemail here. The transcript is not right. It says, okay, we'll just listen to this. Let's go ahead and hear.
Here we go. Who knows?
Let's take a listen here.
It'd be hate mail.
Good evening, Matt. Good evening, Jeremy. It's Everett in Vermont. I'm calling to ask if any of you two have the book Mark Davis in His Own Words, Imagineering Disney Theme Parks by Peter Docter and Christopher Merritt. I'd like to know if you do, because it's a great book. Thanks. Have a great episode. Bye.
All right, great question. Thank you. Yeah. Not hate mail. I personally do not own any books. Well, I have a few Disney
at all
books. But yeah, I don't have this book, sadly.
No, yeah, I've been wanting to get this book ever since it was announced. I haven't yet. It's a pretty expensive purchase, but it's on my list. You might have influenced me to make that my next kind of major read in terms of Disney history books. So I definitely want to get it, and then maybe I'll read it, and maybe I'll do another book review after I read it. So definitely something I want to read. Mark Davis obviously is a great artist. And I want to learn more about his line of work in Disney. There's a lot he was working on and doing. So it's next.
Shout out to Mr.
It's now.
Mark.
I'll read it.
Yeah.
I'll read it. It's on my radar.
Let's go. Shout out Mark Davis. Yeah, Jeremy will read it, and he'll do a review, because I'm not much of a I mean, I can if you guys want me to. I'm not much of a book reader, but if there's a push, then I'll buy it and read it. But yeah, I think that was the last question of the episode. We managed to fill the time with a lot of great questions, a lot of great answers. yeah, thank you to everybody who submitted questions to the show. Who knows when we'll bring this Q&A section back? Maybe next week, maybe the week after.
I'm thinking maybe every other week. I mean, there's
Every
only
other
so
week.
many questions people ask, and it's not like we're the most popular show in the planet.
We're the second most
So-
popular.
Not even. Maybe once we get Historyland back off and running, but which we're doing.
Yes.
But be patient.
Yes. Patiency. Is that a word? I don't think that's a word.
It'll be worth it because what we're working on is we want it to be something that really comes out with a consistent release schedule, and the only way we can do that is work on it, work on a body of them, a season of them, if you will, and then release them to you.
Yeah.
So be patient. I hope it'll be rewarding. So
Yes.
Yeah.
We're excited. But
or rather, thank you for your patience. I shouldn't demand patience of you. Thank you for your patience, and I agree with your demands that it should return. So,
Yes.
but we're working on it.
let's go. Historyland's coming back as soon as we can. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap up this week's episode of Matterhorn Mondays. Thank you all for coming out to today's episode. And as always, socials to all of our socials will be down in the description below. And if you have any thoughts on any of the topics that we discussed, you can always call in over throughout the week, 575-386-5814. Very excited to hear what you guys have to say about the topics that we discussed. And don't forget, next week we will have exclusive footage from Buena Vista Street, courtesy of Mr. Mark, TASG Gaming. And we will also have Mr. Freddie from the Imagine Tomorrow podcast on. It's going to be a superstar lineup, you guys.
That'll be a great episode.
Yeah.
I won't just be
superstar.
talking myself to death, so that's good.
Yes.
No, I love talking to Matt.
Let's go. But yeah, Freddie, we're excited to have Freddie on. He's a real cool guy. Going to be running down I can't remember off the top of my head, the D23 announcements, I'm pretty sure, is what's happening throughout the week. But until then, thank you all for coming to today's episode. And as always, have a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.